Welcome and thank you for joining me for this week's video. We've come slightly north. I decided to move away from the south coast purely and simply because of the storms that we've had. Going into work for the last couple of days, Thursday particularly, was pretty interesting to say the least. A lot of localised flooding, so I thought let's come up north. So I've come just above Oxford to Otmoor RSPB Reserve. First time I've ever been here. Not really quite sure what to expect. I know it's got a good reputation for the Starling Murmuration, which will be probably later on in the year. So it's a case of have a little recce, have a little look around, see if I can work out what the hides are, walk around and see what I can find. Initial impressions are pretty good. Had a chat with one of the RSPB staff here, and yeah, it looks as if it's got a bit of potential. Bittern, short-eared owls, cattle egrets, so on and so forth. So yeah, going to give it a go, have a look at each of the hides. It's got one hide and two screens. Yeah, so let's see what comes. I decided to walk to the furthest screen and work my way back, and looking out across this wetland, loads of reeds, a heron, but not much else. So I thought, he's cute, lapwing at the back there. And on closer inspection, I suddenly noticed there was some common snipe, at least 6 to 8. Noticed just poking out was this snipe. I'm sort of hoping in a way every time I see one on its own it's going to be a jack snipe one of these days, but to my estimation this is another common snipe. You can walk around the perimeter of the reserve and it was extremely muddy, but it afforded me a good view of these lapwings and golden plover. Must admit, the way in which they circle around these plover, they do look lovely, and you can certainly see where they get that golden name from. The track certainly became quite muddy at parts, and looking across into the field in the distance I could see these cows, and with my binoculars I could see cattle egret, smaller and rarer than the little egret. They spend much of their time sort of around livestock, feeding on insects and worms around their hooves. I must admit it looked rather dangerous to be so close. They certainly were dwarfed by the size of these cows. Although they are rarer than the little egrets, they're certainly becoming greater in number, giving us a much greater chance of seeing one. I spent a few hours hoping that the cattle might bring the cattle egrets a bit closer, but to no avail, so I moved back towards the hide. Looked across the wetland, and there wasn't a massive amount. I'm assuming that a little bit later in the year, when the flocks start to migrate down from the north, we shall see much more. With the number of wetland birds you generally get sort of marsh harriers, there was apparently some hen harriers here, and peregrines and the like, but all I managed to see on this day were some red kites. Presumably use this particular branch quite regularly, and it looked as if he'd decided to perch here and eat his snack. As the afternoon drew towards the evening, I decided to go into the middle screen and sit down. It cleared off and looked as if it was going to be a lovely evening, and to my surprise and joy, a few starlings started to gather, and then more and more. And despite the fact that it's a little bit early in the season, I was really pleased. Clear day with some lovely light, and looking across the water here, the reflection of the starlings doing their murmuration was immense. So for the starlings, several reasons why they flock tightly like this. Safety in numbers from predators like the peregrine and the hen harrier, marsh harrier, but also it's a visual invitation to attract other starlings to them. Once they roost down into the reed beds, you've got safety in numbers. They stay slightly warmer, and if there are any night predators like owls or martins, again, safety in numbers. It's difficult here on the film to sort of really appreciate the spectacle. They were all around to my left and right, and the sound was really quite eerie of the wings flapping in unison. as the evening drew on, they seemed to become tighter and tighter packed. And it was just really interesting to see the speed in which they dived down into the reeds. Actually, the numbers started to thin out as more and more went to roost in the reeds. This spectacle lasted for about 45 minutes, and I felt really privileged to be able to have seen it. And as the last of the starlings went into roost, I thought better start packing up and working my way back to the car, as it was quite some walk to the car park. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, give it a big thumbs up, like and subscribe. And as always, it'd be lovely for you to join me for a cup of coffee in the next one.